Hi, and welcome to Post-Burnout.com interviews. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. My name is Aaron Kavanagh, and I'm the website's founder and editor-in-chief. This is our website's podcast where we interview people from various artistic disciplines. These episodes are sometimes full-length interviews from our site's articles and other times exclusives. If you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back, and if you're new here, thanks for checking us out. We hope you'll like it and stick around with us. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, we talk with the guitarist and founder of the Belfast shoegaze band Resurgence, Michael Smyth. Michael discusses expanding the project from a solo endeavour into a full band, their upcoming debut album Nothing Hurt and Everything Was Beautiful, supporting Bdrrm, the resurgence of shoegaze, the influence of director Sofia Coppola on their music, working with Blowtorch Records, the challenges of composing and producing shoegaze music, and more.
Aaron?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Oh shit, I'm on mute. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, Grant. Can you hear me?
There we go, man. How are you?
Grand, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so fucking sorry. I've just so
Yeah, don't even worry about it.
Dates and times are just a mess at the minute. Good to finally meet you, man.
Yeah,
After
same.
emailing back and forth so much, you're no longer just a drawing at the bottom of an email.
Yeah, it's very nice to meet you too, man. Let's just jump in. The first thing I was going to ask quite simply, how was kind of like Virgin sort of found that? I understand that you were kind of in other bands, right? And you kind of wanted to add more of a shoegaze kind of approach to some things, and people weren't receptive, so you decided to go full hog with it. I was wondering if you maybe give a bit of a background on that.
Yeah, like I've always played in a bunch of bands, man, and it seems like yesterday, but I was playing in this band Paper Tigers, and it was very much like a like kind of alt rocky, kind of more. There was a lot of poppy kind of influence in it, and we were kind of going that way, and there just wasn't room for a kind of gazy thing in there. And then I was doing Virgins alongside it, and I was playing drums in this other band called Low, so I was doing all these different things. And then lockdown, as it does, I fucking hate talking about it because it just seems like, I don't know, it's weird, but it kind of hit and then stopped everything. And then I got really into Slow Crush, and I'm fucking wearing the hoodie now. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just I can't remember how it happened, but I came across the record Aurora, and then I just got really, really into it, man. I was like, because I'd like My Bloody Valentine and stuff, but it's a more kind of like ethereal, floaty kind of thing, whereas like Slow Crush had like it was like a full band, and it was kind of like punk rocky kind of energy behind some of it, and it was a bit more driving, and I really kind of latched on to it, and then I just got really, really into it, and just got like found out about all these bands that I never heard about that are like huge in the kind of shoegaze kind of community, like Nothing and like Dev Cult and all this kind of stuff. So just got into it, and then I was like, well, I write songs. Like I might try and write a shoegaze song, and it got like recording stuff just before kind of the pandemic and everything, and because we were in practice room, then I kind of wrote stuff and recorded it on the garage band, and I was like really going back to listen to those demos, man, is horrific. It's just like looking back on like old photos, it's like I thought this was amazing, and it's like the mix is terrible because I was like I just kind of exploring stuff, and but yeah, like wrote a song, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, and then wrote another one, and then I was like, oh, maybe I can get somebody to sing on this, because like we were in practice room, so I was able to go back and forth on my own at the time, then just to record the drums, and like have live drums. That's really important to me, because like I play everything primarily, started off as a drummer. Like I don't know how I ended up playing guitar in a load of bands, man. It's still baffling, but so just having that on there. So, and then got this initially, this is like we're on the kind of third iteration of Virgins now, because I had like I had another singer, a whole other live band, and the initial idea was like I would write and record everything, and then I'd get somebody to sing on it, and then I'd have a live band to kind of bring it to life so we could go do shows,
Mm-hmm.
And so on the first EP, I play everything, and then Rebecca eventually came and joined, and she sings on it then. And then that's when like Dave and James and Brandy joined, and that was the lineup for ages. We toured, and then James and Brandy left just after we recorded the record there, and now we've got Mo, and Matt on drums. So it's been revolving, but after the first kind of EP, man, and like I really wanted a band, I was like, it's cool that I write this stuff and I can demo things and give it to people and they can learn it and bring their own wee bits to it. But I wanted like a band. Like once you go on tour and stuff, like you kind of like it's fine being like a kind of center point or, songwriter to things, but like you want to be in a band with people and for them to have input and certainly Rebecca has a lot of input, in terms of like lyrics and vocals and stuff. And like, Dave, whenever I was giving him the songs to learn, he'd kind of look at me and he'd go, oh, yeah, yeah, no sweat. And then you start playing and then he'd just be doing something else, that isn't on the EP, but like is very complimentary to the song and the parts. So he's been like a really big addition. I know I kind of veered off after the initial
No, no.
question. That'll happen a lot.
No,
But
actually,
that's kind of where it started and where it's ended up now, I guess, an abridged version of it.
no, actually, like what I always find very interesting about shoegaze when you kind of think about it is it's sort of in a very weird position, I think, where it's not like kind of like harsh, it's not like noise rock, it's not like anything like that, but at the same time, it's not like the most easily accessible either. It's in a very weird position where it's actually is quite melodic and catchy, and I think it works very well for pop, which is obviously what you guys are doing with Rebecca's vocals and stuff. I mean, like it's incorporating pop into shoegaze, and obviously like there's a lot of crossover, like say dream pop and other aspects too. I was wondering, like, as kind of like as a medium, like, because this is very shoegaze. Because I was thinking about this. There's a lot of artists now who are kind of using shoegaze as a spice. I was thinking like Just Mustard, for example, where it's kind of like, they're doing the kind of post punk thing while adding kind of shoegaze elements. There's another band from Cork called Pebble Dash, if you're familiar with them, who do this other thing. But this is very like straight on, like shoegaze, like kind of loveless, no bullshit, kind of no extra. I was wondering, like, where do you find like shoegaze in terms of like popular appeal is, or the kind of I guess the how popular shoegaze can be as a genre,
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because you have all these when you hear the record, there's all this fuzz and like filth underneath it, but like as soon as you put this pretty delay over it, like it dissipates the harshness of it and then makes it like this dreamy, floaty thing. And so I think it kind of takes the edge off things, and all of a sudden, and then like Rebecca's vocals, and that makes it a wee bit more accessible. And you're 100% right. There's a lot of pop, and especially in what we do, like like melody is king. Like you have to have those melodic hooks and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I love noise rock and like some metal and stuff. There's times for all that, but for this, and again, you're picking up on it completely correctly. Like there's a lot of bands that we call gaze curious, and it's just like they had a wee bit of reverb, but they're not all the way down the path, but it's just the tip kind of thing. And like Just Mustard, I would say that they've just kind of forged their own thing, and I love them and I've seen them a bunch and they're kind of untouchable in what they do, I feel. And I know some bands shy away. They're like, oh, we don't want to be called shoegaze. I'm like, we're a fucking shoegaze band. Like from the outset, and that it seems ridiculous in a way because I remember whenever I started in the band, it's like, oh, well, can't define our sound and, we don't want to be this. I'm like, we're a shoegaze band. Like that's what we're going to do. And this is what I want to go after. And so, I think like the appeal of it comes from having that especially the female vocal and like that kind of like real. I always thought shoegaze had like a really feminine element to all of it, I mean, regardless if there's a male singer or not, it feels that that's intrinsically a part of the music. So the mix of it being like kind of heavy and yet floaty, so people aren't like, it's not a Slipknot show, but it's not like a Britney Spears show either, and it's a weird way to put it, but like, do you know what I mean? That there's a lot of middle ground for people that like heavy stuff, like lighter stuff. It's still melodic, so it's still catching people's ears, and certainly there's like this massive resurgence around it now. And I mean, I guess we were just kind of lucky that we kind of came out around the time that all kind of happened, and people really seemed to connect with people and strike a chord with people, which is amazing, because I mean, I genuinely thought like I would play it for like 5 people and they'd be like, cool little buddy kind of thing,
Yeah.
People seem into it. And now with like genre being less and less important in music, like there's like Hachi, this girl, like she's very, very pop, but there's shoegaze there, and people are more open to just mushing stuff together and see what comes out. I mean, that's my approach to songwriting, but like
Yeah.
yeah, I just think people are more open to kind of having those different kind of elements. I think it's the melody. Overall, it's melody. People always latch on to melody.
Yeah. Actually, you mentioned the kind of like I think there is a bit of a resurgence going on at the moment. I think of bands like Bdrrm, I know you've opened for, and Dive as well. I
Mm.
mean, it seems like because obviously I think New York and Bdrrm are English, so it's kind of
Yeah,
like you're kind of getting it from kind of like it seems to be kind of like I don't know, sometimes like trends can happen in one country and not kind of translate, but it seems to be kind of like a kind of international thing now.
yeah,
Obviously, you guys are in Belfast. One thing I think is interesting is for the name Virgins, it's actually spelled like how it's pronounced. It's actually spelled correctly. I mean, think when
yeah,
you
yeah,
look at like Bedroom and Dive, it's always
yeah,
like
yeah,
that
yeah,
seems to be the new trend in shoegaze. I think is kind of
yeah,
like the off spelling a bit.
yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering why you settled on Virgins as a name.
I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, I thought it would be funny if I was like, so what's his name mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's so I love Sofia Coppola, and like all her films are like a big influence. It sounds weird, but even on like the aesthetic
Yeah,
Virgins and like the songwriting and her soundtracks, I love all of it. So like I love Virgin Suicides, and I was like, oh,
yes,
that's cool. And then or it was like Death from Above 1979 have a song called Virgins. I remember just driving along, and I was like, it'd be really funny to call your band Virgins. And then I was just like, fuck it. Like it just fit. And without like going down the kind of normal kind of, I don't know, there's a lot of kind of words and vague things you can go after. And I was like, just call it Virgins, and then it'll be. I remember the first show we ever done, man. I'm so used to like playing like really high energy. Like I mean, our shows are that, but like at the time, it's like, what am I going to do? And I got up and it was just like, we're fucking virgins, and like that's the first thing I ever said. I said, oh, God, I need to watch that. But yeah, I just think it's funny. And then one of the news we got initially was like somehow they've made a band name like Virgins seem cool, and then
Yeah.
where we're talking about like we should get like t-shirts that just say Virgin on it, and I was like, no one's gonna buy those. But anyway, for us, and then we were gonna get purity rings, like
Yeah, yeah.
promise rings kind of thing. I still
Kind
might
of like
do
the
that. That
Jonas
would be
Brothers.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just think that would be funny. And like, I should probably have a deeper answer than that, but it just,
No.
yeah, yeah. And like, it does kind of come from the Virgin Suicides and that Death from Above song. But I was like, the music's very serious and all, but it's important to like be able to laugh at it as
Yeah.
well. So yeah,
Well, I think it's actually that's a really interesting answer because like I love the Virgin Suicide. It's like probably one of my favorite films, and that
yeah,
film um just has a very hazy kind of quality that's very similar, I think, to the music.
absolutely.
The whole film has kind of this like there's like segments I think of this the scene with like where because it's for those who haven't seen it, I mean it's about like these guys kind of reminiscing on the Lisbon sisters who like
Yeah,
lived across the road who commit suicide, and it's them as adults kind of like trying to figure out why they did it. And there's like just these like really kind of like dreamy segments where they're reading one of the girls, the youngest, I forget their names, but like the youngest daughter's diary, and they're
Cecilia.
kind of yeah, and they're kind of having like the images, and there's like I always remember the scene of like Kirsten Dunst kind of doing the Hulu
Yeah,
dancing
yeah,
kind of stuff. It has
yeah,
a very hazy quality, and of course also Air did the soundtrack for
yeah,
that, and it's one of my favorite like film
yeah.
soundtracks I think. And again, I kind of like the combination of those two things. I actually think is quite similar to what you guys are doing sonically, perhaps.
Hmm. Yeah, and all those things are right. I like it does have this woozy, dreamy kind of haziness, and there's stuff that in the film they look back and remember that never happened, but
Yeah,
they're and I mean that is a great analogy for like the music. I think that's what it feels like. Kevin Seals used to say like it feels like you're waking up from a dream, but you're not 100% awake. But it kind of feels like you're looking back on things that maybe never happened, and it has that like filter rose tinted kind of thing to it, and that's what I want. Like I just want to create I want people to, especially live, like the record, if you put the headphones on, I'd love people to like put headphones on, just close their eyes and kind of see what happens. But live, I want it to feel like enveloping and like, I've seen, I mean, I went to see, say, Slow Crush in Liverpool, and like, I don't use the word lightly, but it was transcendent. Like
Yeah.
the sound was everywhere, like it just huge, and I wouldn't say we're like that, but like, I want that kind of, I want to be able to evoke those kinds of things through the music, I guess, especially on the some of the newer stuff. Like there's kind of longer drawn out songs in the album, and they're meant to be kind of like trancey, and like you get into the groove, as Madonna said, and like, but it's meant to kind of carry you away, and like obviously like Rebecca's vocals as well lend themselves to that so well, and having her style of singing. I mean, whenever she kind of joined, she didn't know about any of this, and it just seems like she was just meant to do this. Her voice lends itself so well to it, and her delivery and her understanding of like where that sits, within the music, because initially, like, I was like, oh, it has to be buried, and we're not really going to hear you. She was like, fuck that, like,
Yeah.
people are going to hear me, and I think it does make a big difference, like, having just the vocal just that wee bit more audible than it normally would be in like some of the other kind of gazy stuff. It does kind of, it just adds something else to us that maybe some other shoegazier kind of bands don't have, because you're losing like parts of the melody then, and the delivery of it. But yeah, like I do take a lot of influence from like that kind of thing, and her stuff, and like all her design. Like I got her archive book, and it shows her process of working through things and where she pulls from. And I love getting into people's process of things, and it's so interesting because I'm like, I also listen to that record and the Air record, like like Moon Safari is like, it's a big influence, in the Virgin Suicides soundtrack as well, even though they're not like gazy, they have that like floatiness to them, and that kind of dreaminess to them. So they're great records. I'm annoyed I'm not getting to go see them, actually.
Oh, I'm gonna see them.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm
don't
going to
mean
see
to piss you
Taylor
off.
Swift that day, and I was like, oh.
Oh, they should have like combined. They should have done like support.
Yeah, oh God, Air supported Taylor Swift. That would have been amazing.
Actually, it's interesting too. I was kind of listening to just coincidentally the other day I happened to be listening to Disintegration by The Cure, and I was listening to Fascination Street, and even that kind of has like some like very kind of hazy. It's interesting, like once you kind of get into the realm, I think, of thinking of it, you can hear like the kind of like gaze, and obviously that would have like predated like something like Loveless, which I think for a lot of people is kind of the progenitor of what that sound would be.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, like kind of like listen to the origins of it, and kind of like I think a lot of this stems from like a lot of the genres that we're seeing now. Obviously, like they're kind of getting resurgence with post punk, with goth, even with something like with pop punk. I think like it all kind of like stems from kind of punk rock, and sort of the freedom that allowed. And I think now we're sort of seeing like, I don't know, it's I don't have this formed out, but it's kind of like we see like all the kind of different avenues that kind of like sprung up from that. And do you find now that like how do you kind of find the relationship to it now, for the kind of like modern artists? You find that it is looking to, I guess, those places as influence, or do you find that it is trying to create its own thing using those influences as a kind of a springboard, I guess?
Yeah.
Sorry, that was very long-winded.
No. There's a lot in there. I grew up on like punk rock, and like Fugazi and Minor Threat and like Dead Kennedys and Black Flag and all that, and that that sound was very influential to me very early on. But the ethics, the values, the approach, the attitude, and which is why I like do Old Crows and Fever Dream, and like do as much as I can myself. Obviously, work with Blowtorch, and Richard's great, but that ethic is something I've taken from that and tried to carry through. Certainly, like you mentioned, the freedom, and it's always been important to me just to kind of do what I think is what I want to do and is right, And I'm far from the greatest guitar player in the world. I know fuck all about guitar, to be honest, but as long as I feel like the intention behind it's right and it works, then that's cool, And it's interesting you touch on the Cure because Dave is such a massive Cure fan, and I don't like listen to them at all. Like, and not that I don't like them, and I keep trying to go back to listen to them, and he kind of brings stuff in, and he's like, "Oh, that sounds like this song," and then I'll go away and listen. Like, "Oh, that's cool." And but it's funny. Robert Smith said that when Loveless came out, it's one of the only records he's ever sat down and played like 4 times in a row, and he said he just sat there and listened to it, and like all those bands were kind of, I mean, like it, like the punkiness of like Isn't Anything, you know, and it's much more abrasive, and you know, Kevin Smith said he was listening to The Cure, and you hear those things kind of meld through. Like, obviously, like I want us to be able to say that we kind of have our own thing, and I do think there's, you know, I'm not gonna. I mean, I fucking pull from everybody, you know, like, and everybody does, like, you can't help it. But the idea is that hopefully you take all those things and then you put it through your filter, and then it comes out as something like that. It sounds like you and your band, and like I don't think. I mean, I could say we sound like kind of like My Bloody Valentine, but we don't really, you know. And I could say we kind of sound like nothing, but like we don't really, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm pulling from all those places, and like Slow Crush and like Wolf Alice. I fucking love Wolf Alice, like Just Mustard. Like we don't sound anything like Just Mustard there, but it's I'm listening to all that and taking it in, and I'm going like, oh, that's cool, and you know, maybe something like comes out in an abstract way, but it's like there's this quote, and it's like when this painter, and he's like, whenever you go to your canvas, you're taking like all 4,000 paintings you've ever seen in your life, and all those people, and then hopefully over time all those people fade away, and then it's just you in it, you know. And I always go back to that, and it's always something I'm like, because no, you don't want to be like, oh, they just ripped off fucking whoever, you know, especially if the band sucks. That's awful. At least if someone says like they sound like the Pumpkins or My Bloody Valentine, I'm like, I'll take that all day. But like the idea is that hopefully we're bringing at least a new kind of spin on it, you know. And like something you touched on earlier, like I know there's bands like Blushing, and they're really, really poppy, but there's still a wee bit more kind of like a abrasiveness, heaviness to us kind of thing. So I think it's much more of a meld of those kind of two things, you know, that inadvertently we've done, you know, it just kind of came out that way.
Yeah. Actually, that's an interesting one. Smashing Pumpkins, I didn't even consider them, but yeah, like you listen to a song like 1979 and stuff, and it has that kind of like wash to it as well.
It's my all-time favorite song. I'm like,
oh, really?
yeah. There's a song in the record, and it doesn't sound anything like it. It just had the same movement and like feeling, and so you know, like bands have working titles, you know, and we just called it like 1978 for ages. I was like, it's kind of like it, but it's not, you know. And yeah, but it was funny. I like initially we got a lot of Pumpkins kind of comparisons, and which I mean, I love the Pumpkins, you know, and like I'm going to see them too, and but I think it's because it's that dreamy, fuzzy distortion thing, and then people like are like, oh, it sounds like Deftones, and I'm like,
oh, really?
It doesn't sound anything like Deftones. It's like that means you don't listen to the Deftones, you know? Like, but it's interesting initially as well, because I think it was more kind of at the start of this kind of resurgence, so people were like looking for touch points and comparisons and stuff, and people didn't really have it, but now there's a bit more of a wider kind of understanding, or we're kind of taken as our own kind of thing, you know. But I mean, if anybody wants to say we sound like, you know, those bands, I mean, like we all love those bands, and obviously like they're a massive influence on everything that we do. But yeah, the Pumpkins are certainly, like, I've got the Corgan op amp fuzz, and that's on the record, you know. I mean, like the main pedal I use is the Loomer, you know, and it's like My Bloody Valentine in a box, so I can't be like, oh, you know, that would be dumb, you know. Yeah.
Actually, what's interesting too is you were mentioning earlier that you work with obviously you do Ulcro, and you kind of like do press release for other bands, helping other bands kind of get press material. And obviously one thing of press releases that's very common is FFO for fans of, and you have to kind of like get kind of like reference points and stuff. And obviously, like do you find as someone who does art as well, do you find that like having to I don't know, have those kind of touchstones for like dopey journalists like myself who have to kind of have to kind of like have not have independent thought. Do you
Yeah,
find that's often sort of regressive in a weird way where it's kind of like you have to liken the act to someone else, or I don't
yeah.
know.
No, I feel understand what you're saying, and like I mean, I bombard you with press releases from a lot of bands that I work with, and Old Crows is to give people an opportunity to access like stuff like PR or shows and
Yeah,
Fever Dreams to do touring that they maybe wouldn't have an idea. Like yourself, PR is incredibly expensive, and I
yeah,
make sure that my prices are cheap enough that are pretty much accessible for everybody. Whenever I come to write press releases, I think it's reductive to compare bands with other bands. And like, not that you're a lazy journalist, but I would say sometimes it can be lazy journalism to be like they sound like such and such instead of
yeah,
like trying to. And I understand why people do that because I mean, in a way, it's why I end up doing it sometimes. It's because like if say I'm doing PR for us, I'll be like, it's My Bloody Valentine, Slow Crush, Wolf Alice, like Always. You try and give people cornerstones. They go, oh, I know that this is going to be good, or like I'll maybe like this, or if I'm doing a band that like some indie band, I'll maybe say like the Libertines and the Strokes, and people love those bands. So it's just a way to kind of hook people in. But if when I come to write about, I mean, other bands or ourselves or anything, I try. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but like I try my absolute best to search for a vocabulary that's more representative of a sound as opposed to like a comparator that really doesn't match up. Like I mean, like there's a million bands that kind of sound like the Strokes, but no one sounds like the
yeah.
Strokes. And like My Bloody Valentine, who actually sounds like My Bloody Valentine? Not one fucking band. No one. Like
Yeah.
genuinely, I was thinking about this the other day, and we were talking about it. I was like, no one really sounds like them. Like people borrow a lot, and they think they're doing the thing. But if you go back and listen to Loveless, like no one sounds like that.
Yeah.
So I try and give bands the due that they sound like themselves.
Yeah.
And but for fans of certainly is helpful in terms of like a PR way or like a press way or a marketing way because it allows people to hook on to those things much easier. Because if I put up like Virgin Softer out 2202 or whatever, people are gonna be like, all right, cool. But if you're like for
Yeah.
fans off and they're like,
It's
well, I like
something you have to do. It's kind of like
yeah,
cutting
yeah,
through
yeah. I
because
mean
there's like
like
so much like media kind of vying for everyone's attention that you have to kind of
yeah,
cut through and go, oh yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
these
for
reference
sure.
points.
Yeah.
I always love I would always love to do one where it's just like completely opposite ends. It's like for fans of like, I don't know, Foo Fighters and Andrea Bocelli or just like really all over the place. Like what?
Yeah, yeah. I was working with this band and they were like, "We love Randy Newman," and I'm like, I'm not putting that in." And they were like, "No, but like we love Randy Newman," and I was like, "You're like a weird like kind of metal alt rock indie band. I know you're doing a lot of stuff, but like." If I put Randy Newman in, someone's gonna expect to cover a friend like me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like we should maybe not do that. But yeah, yeah. I think
Okay.
that maybe goes too far in like trying to cast the net too wide.
um yeah, I actually I don't want to focus too much on PR
No,
side. I want to just get the band, but obviously as like having done kind of like PR for as long as you have now, I mean, do you find I don't know, do you find that kind of like is something that kind of affects the art in a way? Do you often like kind of consider it because it's a weird thing where um I don't know, like sometimes like I think because I write for like write about bands for other outlets and stuff, and sometimes I often find like myself thinking it's such a weird headspace to get into, and this might just be an individualized thing, but like I'll see in a band like, okay, I know I have to write a report about this gig for a different thing, and that's often how I'm thinking about of like how do I kind of like this is a really sick band, how do I sell it to like an audience like that? And I
yeah,
don't know, it's just it's I don't know, it's kind of like it seems kind of like to me it's not very conducive to appreciating art to kind of have to be like that, but I understand that is you have to kind of sell to people. It's just a very weird headspace I find myself in. I don't know how you feel about it.
yeah. I think as soon as you're you go beyond being like maybe like a I don't want to say music's passive, but like a listener. As soon as
Yeah.
you go beyond that and you are in a band or you write about music, you can no longer enjoy it because
Yeah.
like every
It
time
is
like
kind of the
I
case.
every time I listen to a song, I'm like that snare or the production's wrong, or maybe if he had held that note, or like, and I am a fucking music snob. I don't care. Like, and I love lots and lots of stuff, but like if it's not good, I'll say,
Yeah.
I'm not a dick about it, but like I'll just not be bothered. But like as soon as whenever I come to write about stuff, and there's a whole other thing, especially recently with the album coming out, and I'm kind of like I can't remember the last time I got to sit down and actually play guitar just to play guitar and write songs, because now I'm doing this admin PR business side, and it's like being in a band is actually only 10% playing music for me,
Yeah.
because I do so much of this other stuff. So it can impact that in terms of like not whenever I come to write, but like the time, and then whenever I do come to do PR, obviously I'm approaching it from a very different point of view. Like there's creativity, like yourself whenever you sit down to write something, and like in a press release, like some people are just like, oh, this is a good band and like you should listen to this song. I try and you've read the press releases I send, and I've read a lot of press releases I get sent to, and there's a lot of different approaches, but certainly I try and sell it on the merit of the music, the narrative behind it, and like why it's important and why it's important to the band, because I spend a lot of time interviewing them, asking them questions, and I know a lot of people don't do it this way. It's just my approach. And like
Yeah.
trying to understand, the core of why they thought it was good. And it's not just a load of lads having cans down the park kind of thing. And we just wrote a
Yeah.
song. Like no one cares about that anyway, And I mean, like there was a time for this they did. It's over. And so I think sometimes that element can get in can muddy the waters sometimes, and I certainly like it takes away from the overall enjoyment of it. But I'm still doing this, this is the only thing I fucking care about, man, and that's why I
Yeah.
play in like a bunch of bands and do this and do that and all this stuff. And like but my brothers just started like learning how to play guitar and record, and like listen to the song, like here's the intro, how long does that go for? And then he messaged me the day and he's like, oh, I get it, man. And I was like, welcome to never being able to enjoy music. Like I was like, because you'll always analyze. Like whenever you
Yeah.
go to see a show, you're not just like rocking out. You're like, why is he using that pedal? What amps are they using?
Yeah.
Like, is this different from the record? All these kinds of things. Like, are they engaging with the crowd? Like, you've all these because you've all this fucking other stuff going on, and you're always looking, and like you're still enjoying it, but whenever I go to see shows, my girlfriend's like, I can see in your face like the cogs are turning. I'm like, I can't help it, I just can't.
Yeah.
And when it comes to our record, then you put so much into it. You write the songs, you demo them, you practice them playing live, you go record them, you gotta mix them, you gotta master them, and then eventually that's like maybe like a year and a half process all in, and then at some point you get this final thing, and it's the product of all this effort, and you can't enjoy it
Yeah.
because you're just like, oh, you're still just like analyzing, like, oh, did I miss this? Did I miss that? Should that be better? So then you got to put it away, and then like I try not to. I mean, like obviously you want to keep listening to it. I listen to my own music. I don't know how people. If you're making anything and you don't enjoy it yourself, how can you expect anyone else to? So I listen to it all the fucking time, and but I got to put it away and then go back to it and go back to it and go back to it, and eventually over time, then you are able to just kind of like switch off that part of your brain that is like looking for all those things and just be like, this is may as well be somebody else's record, and
Yeah.
I can just kind of listen to it for like what it is now. And like sometimes that takes a long time. Like I was doing this Orchids thing, and we put the album out there, and I'm still like, I still can't, I'm still looking for the loosey things. And I'm like, oh, I should have done that or this or that, And it's like I can feel myself getting closer because I'm able just to sit and listen to it, and like I feel myself nodding along and not like picking things apart. That was a long-winded answer to a long-winded question, so that was good.
We're very long-winded.
Yeah, that's fine. I got time, man. I got time.
Yeah, me too. I actually want to talk about your album then. I wrote it down because I knew I wasn't going to remember offhand.
Yeah,
Nothing Hurt and Everything Was Beautiful. Very it's actually a lot more succinct than I remembered the title being.
yeah.
It's um the new single off is Softer,
Hmm.
which I think just has like for me, like what really makes this song is the bass line. It's just
Yeah.
like insanely like addictive and just like really catchy and kind of again it reminds me of like you were kind of saying like nothing sounds like Loveless. One thing I think is like really good about like Loveless is I'll often just get like a riff stuck in my head and be like, what the
Hmm.
hell is that? And it
Yeah,
will just be a song off Loveless. It'll just be
yeah,
like one of the album tracks. I think
yeah.
that has that kind of has that
So,
kind of appeal to it where it has
mm,
that kind of like hook of just being like I don't know really addictive and just like really it's but it's very unique. I'm not saying it's like
no,
anything
no, no.
else.
I
I
understand.
think it's a great thing. Yeah, I was wondering if like maybe we could talk about like the new record. You mentioned
Yeah,
actually it's on Blowtorch. How'd you get involved with them as well? As wondering.
yeah. So, thank you so much about all the nice things about Softer. And initially, like I was in that band Paper Tigers, and like I pushed it a lot, and we kind of started to do kind of well. And Richard from Blowtorch, I think I just started emailing people, being like, "Here, we're class. Like, you should
Yeah,
work at this kind of thing."
yeah,
Really, really brazen about it, and he was just like, "Yeah, I quite like it." And we did Zoom and we chatted, and we kind of done some stuff, and he put us on. He done these compilations initially. It was like something this could work or something. I feel bad, I can't remember it, but
yep,
so Tigers were on one, and then I was like, I've also got this other thing, Virgins, and I was like, what about Virgins? And so the first Boys came out initially with a different singer on it, Brooke, and so that track is on the second compilation. So it was just kind of like a slow kind of thing, and I was like, look, man, I've got these songs, and I knew he was into shoegaze because we chatted so much through music and stuff, and got on really, really well. And I was like, I got these songs, man, and like obviously you like Vows, and I kind of want to put them out, and I think they do well. And what do you think? And like just like I've just I just ask, and if someone says
yeah,
no, I say no. I don't care. And but he was like, yeah, I fucking love them. Let's do this. So then I sent him demos, and then just that kind of snowballed. And then uh, as soon as our EP was the first release that they had that sold out, which was super cool. And I mean, like amazing for us. And because like that's we want to continue working together. And I was like, well, by the time the EP had already came out and we'd started touring, I had like half, three quarters of it written and demoed, and I was like, I have more songs. Here you go.
yeah,
What do you think? And he was like, love it. And I remember whenever I wrote Softer, I was like so excited about it, man. I was just like, here's this song. It's just a demo, but like, when do you hear this fucking thing? And he was really excited about it. I was like, we're cool. Like, we got it. So, and even now, like, the record's done and it's going to come out. And I'm already sending them demos for the next thing. I'm like, I got this new stuff. There's like 6 songs. And, yeah. But, yeah, so it's just, Richard's great. And, Richard is one of those rare people in this kind of industry, and I'm sure you'd agree. Like, you don't meet a lot of people who are doing it for all the right reasons, kind of thing. And they're not slimy, and they're not trying to fuck you over. And that guy loves music, and you could talk to him all day about music. And he
yeah.
loves a bunch of different stuff. We were chatting the other day, and he was like, "Oh, Kylie Minogue, though I love Kylie Minogue." I was like, "What the fuck, man?" But yeah, and so it was just kind of natural kind of thing, and organic, and just kind of happened over time. And now he's stuck with me emailing him every 2 days, being like, the test press is in, or the test press is in.
I've never
Like,
met Richard, but he actually republished one of an article I wrote, so
yeah,
he's good in my books.
yeah, he's a great guy, and those he has this band. What do you call them? I'm so bad with names. I can't remember what they're called. Oh, so bad. But they were on a comp, and then he was there from Los Angeles. So he brought them over, and he was like, "Will you put them on?" And I was like, "Yes." And so I put them on up here, and it was cool to kind of have that little
Yeah.
label link, like, "Oh, we're label mates," and we're like joking around about it. I was like, "This is fucking ridiculous. They were class, and like those
I
compilations.
just love that a band from LA had to go to Galway to make it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then came to Belfast to play the Deer's Head. They were, I wish I could remember the name. I feel so bad, but they were great, man, and so
Yeah.
so nice, you know. And they're like, if you're ever in LA, and I was like, wish,
Yeah.
but yeah, but like Softer was one of the first ones that was wrote for the new record. I think it came along pretty quick. Um, After yeah, because like I say, I just want to keep writing and playing more stuff. And the difficulty is then you write new songs, then you want to go play them live, and then you have to like try and weed things in and out so people aren't already hearing the whole album, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but that song is just based around that riff, you know, like the bass line is the riff, and like it's such a simple, straightforward song. It's all the same notes. The whole shouldn't be saying this the whole, but it's the whole way through. It's just finding new ways to play that progression of notes, and then
Yeah.
bringing things in and out. And Dave does like this band thing on it, and I was the other week, man. I was like, because I've been listening to the record again, I was like, you need to show me what you're doing there, because that wasn't what I had intended, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, but he just does this great band thing on it. So but it's a fun song, and it's like super fun to play, because it's just so big and you know expansive and stuff. And then when we're in the studio, we started kind of we've done what we would do live, and then we started like layering things in, you know, and then that kind of changed it. So now it's cool. We'd been playing a lot of songs live, and then once we went into the studio, a lot of things changed, and we added like different layers. So now when we play those songs live, they're different, so they feel new to us again, you know, and not like we've been playing them for you know like 12 months or whatever now. So, um, but yeah, like a lot of what Dave done in the studio, I never heard because it's so you know there's a lot going on, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that's class, man. Like, so then I went home and like sat at the computer like the day before tracking and wrote guitar parts because I was like, I want to play cool stuff too. And but it's cool. Like, it's nice that you know we push each other like that, you know, and it's not like it's competitive, but it's just like if you're gonna bring it, I'm gonna go back and look at what I'm doing and bring something new to it too. And yeah, it was cool. It was a good couple of days. Like,
You know, it was cool. I was watching the music video that comes that's accompanying the song,
mm-hmm.
and first thing I'll say is watch it when it comes out, but not if you have photosensitive epilepsy. I'll give a
Yeah,
warning for that. Not for epileptics, but
yeah,
everyone else I think should check it out. But what I thought was kind of cool about the setup of the music video is that it seems like something that would be kind of easy to recreate in a live setting too. I don't know if that's something you're thinking of doing, of incorporating the kind of the projections
yeah,
into the live production, or
yeah. We have done before at one or two shows. The the difficulty is that Rebecca doesn't also not deal with flashy lights very well.
oh, okay, sure.
So like behind her's fine, in front of not so much.
Yeah,
So when we were shooting the video, and when people say it, it'll make sense, I guess. But when we were shooting it, we were like, you should go and sit in the other room, you know. And it's
yeah,
like I think it's actually is worse, not worse in the video, but on the day in the room, it didn't seem like as kind of bad, you know. But
mhm,
on the video, because there's a lot of quick cuts and all that kind of stuff. But even the lighting, you know, like we had to hire lights to be able to create that kind of thing and all. And I mean, ideally, I would love to have like I went to see Slow Dive there, and what was that, November or something. And like they've like a whole projection show, and like lights in front and behind. I would love to be able to do all that because it would lend so much to like capturing that kind of feeling and helping kind of get people there. But like we kind of have to do with what we're given at the minute.
yeah,
But
sure,
we have had the projections before, and it's just to get it really good, you need like a really good in-house projector, or like to have it situated in the right place. And
mhm,
it seems simple, it's just a nightmare whenever you get to do it, because then
yeah,
it has to be so bright to get that kind of level of detail, and so dark in the room. So you're gonna have to turn off like house lights and all. And maybe eventually whenever I can pull enough strings to make that happen, but not initially. We have kind of toyed with like bringing smaller lights on stage to kind of make it that purpley kind of pinky blue kind of stuff. But we just kind of see what we'll do with album launch shows. So maybe some stuff with that, you know.
Yeah, actually, what I think is interesting when you're at like 'cause I think you get to when you're like certain bands get to like a stage where there's consistency between the venues they're playing. So like whether it's club shows, theater shows, arena shows, whatever. I mean, there's like there's you have a kind of a stage production that can be sort of accompanied each venue. But obviously like when kind of smaller bands are playing, there's not that consistency with venues.
Yeah.
So I noticed that actually I recently saw Pitblom when they came to Ireland,
Mm.
and they were playing the Grand Social in Dublin,
Yeah.
and they had this like really like sick production. Then the next day they were playing the Casbah in Limerick, which I wasn't at, but I saw the videos, and it was just like difficult to get the all this stuff like up on stage. I think that can be like an issue too when you're going from kind of like venue to venue. Is there I forget who I was talking to, but I was talking to someone, a different artist, and they were kind of talking about they had this like video aspect to
Mm.
what they wanted to do. But again, it is that kind of issue too, where it's like
Yeah.
some venues just don't have projectors, and then you have to bring your own projector, and it's that situation like
Yeah.
it is like such a difficult thing, I think, when you want to incorporate visual aspects. And I obviously think for but I'm always like really impressed when people can kind of incorporate with a very nominal setup can kind of create a visual aspect too. And sometimes it's as simple as like just like you mentioned, like a certain color, or a
Yeah.
certain kind of aesthetic.
Yeah. We've played places and the lighting people have been accommodating, and I'm like, it should be these, and when we do it, like I put on that Gaze Fest thing last year, and the
Yep.
lighting were like, what do you want? And I kind of told them, and they were able to kind of make that happen. So it looks like it's meant to be for us then,
Yep.
and we're kind of, because the album's coming out, and we're like looking at tours and stuff, we're just hemorrhaging money at the minute, but
Sure.
like eventually the idea is to get like kind of stage lights that would allow that to kind of happen more, and I don't want to say a smoke machine just yet, but possibly a smoke machine. It sounds very Spinal Tap kind of thing, but like
Get the
it just kind of
Stonehenge
like,
background.
yeah. It's like, where are the band? But yeah, like all that kind of stuff really helps, and it helps
Yeah.
create mood and atmosphere. And yeah, when we do play places and they have that kind of like thing, we played the Button Factory in February last year, and they were kind of like, what colors do you want, and is there anything specific? And obviously, if we had our own lighting engineer, they'd be able to sync stuff along, but not quite there yet. I'll keep pushing Richard. Be like, hey, Richard, papers of lights. I think we should stop working together at that.
Actually, I do want to plug the shoe shows you mentioned there. I wrote them down. April 26th, Sinead, Dublin, and 27th, Deershead, Belfast.
Yep.
Yeah, what can people kind of expect that they pop along those shows? Those are the album launch shows.
Yeah.
The album comes out April 11th.
Yep.
Have all that correct? Yep.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
oh shit, I didn't write down. Sorry, the release date for Softer.
It's Thursday, so it's the 22nd.
Okay, perfect. So I'll probably be
yeah.
out by the time this comes up.
So, yeah, we're going to play the album front to back, because they're launch shows, and that's really kind of our plan. The record is ordered in a particular way to take you on that kind of journey, and live we want to be able to recreate that, and we've started doing that now in practice, because we've been playing a bunch and like having to do different sets, and like we're writing new stuff, so we're incorporating that in. But these shows will just be the record, and when you play it live like that, it does like it pulls you along, and it's different pace, and there's different length of songs, and there's different moods. So it's important that it kind of gets presented that way once it's out, when people can listen to it. And yeah, so we're gonna go front to back on it, and I'm really excited to do that. It's scary as well, because like you're like, it's like, some of those songs are really hard to play. And but yeah, so I'm looking forward just to being able to kind of create it live again, and we haven't played now in a couple of weeks. We play so much, we're used to playing a lot, so whenever we don't play for like 2 weeks, feels like a month, and but yeah, the show's at the end of April, and we're really looking forward to it. And then there'll be more kind of announced later in the year, and then we're hoping to go tour the UK in November, and then we'll have Irish dates between now and then as well. We're just kind of figuring those out at the minute, but I just can't wait to get out and play the record in front of people and see. Yeah, obviously, like we're really excited, but also really, really nervous because you're like, are people going to like it? Are they going to get it? And like people seem excited about it and we're posting about it and, we're getting messages and everything. But now you're like, after it gets out, you're at the mercy of the people.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Richard's nervous as well.
There's actually a nice bit of a gap between the release date and the launch show, so people can kind of
Yeah.
familiarize themselves with the record. Was that an intentional thing, or was that just how it turned out?
Yeah, like I mean, obviously, because I kind of have fingers in all aspects of it. I kind of always say to bands, bands think you should have your launch show on the day of launch, and
Yeah.
that achieves nothing because like no one's heard the song, and no one's had the opportunity to like feel the buzz around it, press, playlist, all that kind of thing. So having that gap between the record coming out and the shows is important to let people like live with it a little and experience it and see kind of what we're doing and kind of get all those other wee different bits and pieces that go along with it. So because it's nice when people can come to the show and at least, I mean, we've been playing some of the songs for a while now, like some of them we've never played live yet, and that's frightening. But yeah, I want people to come and at least be familiar with the material so they can enjoy it kind of more on that level. Like it's cool going to see a band and experiencing things live for the first time, but yourself, if you go and the words or like what's coming next, like it makes it a wee bit more enjoyable for people. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure it won't be like it's only 2 months away.
Well, is Softer the this is the second single off the album, so will this be the last release before the album comes out, or?
No, we're gonna put Disappearer out along with the album and kind of working on a video for that now. And
Okay.
like the idea is like slowly long, like that was the first song that we wrote in the room, together as a band. Like that wasn't demoed out by me beforehand. Like
Yeah.
Brendan started playing a bass line and I was like, oh, I could do this. And then we just kind of forged it all together. So whenever we recorded that before we recorded the record separately, and I just wanted to get something out that was like, okay, this is the band, like it's the band and it's not just me. Like as much as like I love talking about me and I'm class and all, like I wanted it to be a band. And
Yeah.
like so it was important for me to get that out. And then so but it's very gaze poppy, and it really kind of leaned into that. And that was, I mean, a lot of that comes from Brandy because that's kind of where he naturally kind of goes. Whereas I would kind of naturally more go the longer kind of like bigger, expansive kind of things. And those songs are on the record too. So then so long as like gaze pop, Softer is just like a flat out shoegaze song. It's fuzz, it's reverb, it's massive, and but like really melodic. And then Disappear is kind of a bit more kind of poppy, just for the radio and like hook those people in. But the album is varied, and there's like Softer's first, Slowly Long, Close is real. I say it's short. It's 3.5 minutes, but like when you compare it to some of the other like 6 minute songs in there, and Pale Fire is a bigger, kind of longer, expansive, drawn out, ethereal kind of thing, and I love that song. And then Adore, it's kind of takes things back a bit, and it's still like big and heavy and kind of grungy. It just feels a wee bit more kind of like melancholy, like not the album, but just kind of sits back a little, and then Disappear kind of picks it up. And then Sunspots is a bit more kind of rocking, and then 10 finishes the record, and it's like, I mean, huge, and like drawn out and long, and but it to me it just feels like it just moves really, really nicely, and it builds, and like there's crescendos, there's troughs and peaks and ebbs and flows, and it those two songs like Pale Fire and 10 are like sister songs to me. They don't sound like each other, but they're related, and even like Close and Sunspots as well. They're different, but they're in the same kind of vein. And it's just I like having those kind of like within the record. There's touch points even off itself, and there's songs that reference other songs and lyrics that reference other lyrics on the album. So, but I mean, like no one will ever get that. That's just for me, and I'll understand that, but people will just be like, "Oh, cool song," But it's like I have to feel that involved and connected and have those things in there. You know, if I was putting it out and I didn't care about it, you know, I just
Yeah.
wouldn't. There's too much that goes into this to not give a shit about the stuff, you know. So like in there's I mean within the artwork for the album is all versions of the same thing. So the front cover is then like the back cover is a different kind of. There's all different elements to it, you know, and those like get taken in and out and brought to the fore and pulled back across the front and back, and then the insert as well. You know, those mirror everything, and so it's all interconnected and like different versions of the same kind of thing. So again, like it because I do all that kind of stuff, I'm able to kind of see those things through and make it like this cohesive thing and know like this is connected to this and this is connected to this, and then those things are mirrored in the merch as well. So not just in terms of like here's the album cover, but there's elements of those things, you know. So I try and have this like big package that I can be like, there you go,
Yeah.
like dig in as much as you want. And we're publishing the lyrics this time on the insert, which Rebecca was really excited about. And it's cool as well, like if people want to read and get into it all and all that kind of stuff, at least it's there for them. And I mean, I know like as a fan, like I'm a vinyl freak, and like I see where it was recorded and what the publishing companies call and all that, dude.
Yeah,
It's like
I used to love the liner notes too, yeah.
yeah, like like if you get a Foo Fighters record, like trying to figure out like what each one of their publishing companies, like who does that belong to?
Yeah.
Like I love that, and it's
Yeah.
a part of the whole thing, and like
I
pouring
also
over.
love like, when it'd be like all songs written by X except for this song written by
Yeah,
like what? Why does
yeah,
that song have
yeah,
extra
yeah,
writers? So,
yeah, 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 yeah. So all that stuff's there if people want to dig into it, or if they just some people just throw it on and be like, all right, cool, awesome, and
yeah.
like that's fine too. But people can kind of experience it on different levels as much as they want. I'm really excited to let people hear it because I genuinely do think it's like it's something great, and it does bring something new to the kind of shoegaze table, you know.
Yeah. Actually, one thing I was wondering because you were kind of talking about like the album as kind of like a cohesive whole. Obviously, like a lot of the music release so far has been very big and expansive. I was wondering, do you often find? Now, I'm probably just reaching here, but
Okay.
do you often find like each individual song to be kind of like movements of a cohesive whole, which would be, I guess, the album as a compilation, I guess.
Yeah, like that, and that's kind of what I was saying about like that's why it's important to play it front to back, because you have
Yeah.
this kind of journey, and like I know like Caius on like Sky Valley, they've parts 1, 2, and 3, and they're different songs, but it's like that's those parts, and that's what I was saying about like having songs mirror other songs, and I want that kind of like want to present it in a way that allows people to come be like, okay, here's the door, walk through it, and now we've got you, and we're going to take you on this ride,
Yeah.
And like that part of that is being like, here slowly along, and it's kind of poppy. You're like, oh, cool, and then next thing is you're in Tail Fire, and you're in like minute 5, and it's just like everything's kicking off, and yeah. So I do like, and when I'm writing and ordering the record, like I'm kind of thinking like, am I could have wrote like 12 kind of grungy, gazy songs, like, and I've a lot of stuff that didn't make it to the record. That's kind of like that, and it's like that. Those are great songs too, but I'm just like, if I put that out, we're a one note band. Then this allows us to at least play 2 notes now,
Yeah.
But so that's why it's important to have like shorter songs, longer songs, bigger songs. Like there's a lot of different sounds on the album, so it isn't all just like fuzz reverb the whole way through. We're trying to add like depth, and obviously we're both pedal freaks, and Mo doesn't play on the record with Brandy, but like he's in the band now, and his pedal board is almost as big as me and Dave's, and like so he's so into it and just sound. And I should mention Johnny Woods, like we recorded the album with him, and obviously we recorded the EP with him as well, so he's been like a big part of things. And then like, we take them on tour, and like we're kind of do a bunch of stuff, our two bands together. But just having the time to kind of explore stuff and be like, oh, well, what about this? Or, and now we've heard that, try this, and
Yeah.
that, like I said, when Dave started playing stuff in the studio, I was like, oh, well, I want to do that, and like Disappear is a great example of that. Like the riff at the beginning wasn't there, and the riff in the lead riff in the verse wasn't there. That kind of merged the vocals, and he was just doing cool stuff, and I was like, I want to do that, but we're conscious of like having space and push pull to it, and not just being like all on all the time. Um, so I don't want to say 3D, but it has that, like, it allows the depth to
Yeah.
songs, because you're not just like this wall of stuff. Like when the wall happens, it's bigger because you haven't just been, six fuzz pedals on at once,
Right. Yeah,
which
that's the
is,
interesting balancing act. Yeah. Sorry,
yeah,
good.
yeah. And like you want to have, I mean, it's fun to do that, but
Yeah.
especially on the bigger, longer songs, it's much more kind of obvious that that's happening. But I mean, it's all over the record, and we try and put, the mix for the record is so important because there's so many layers, and stuff that kind of comes in and out. And sometimes, like, even though I know what's on there and what we played, I'm like, who played that? I'm like, where's
Yeah.
that coming from? And you kind of get like these like audio hallucinations sometimes,
Yeah.
and especially with the headphones on, man. It's just you can get kind of carried away with it all. And but I mean that those things are all parts of why I love other records. So it's cool, and I'm kind of getting that from our stuff too. I hope other people do as well.
Yeah, actually, that's the interesting thing even about the production side is that, like, even something as, potentially inconsequential in people's minds, it's like the headphones you use can really affect the
Yeah,
overall sound of a thing.
yeah,
Because, like, I remember hearing producers talking about using Beats headphones, and they were saying
yeah.
the problem is like too much bass, and like and I know, like, even like the equipment you use and everything is like how much, like, how, like, precious each kind of like little sound is, and how
Mm.
it really affects. And you're talking about like the depth. Yeah, I can't even imagine how much of a headache it would be to like, because even like I find, like, even just like you know I'm very very amateurish producer. Barely, I don't classify myself as a producer, but I've
Sure.
worked with my own kind of music, and it's kind of like, even just like simple stuff, it's kind of like you like hear sounds that you just like never hear, and like, how did I make that, like, where did that come
Yeah,
from?
yeah,
And I can only imagine, like, with that, like, as you mentioned, the kind of like with the amount of layers, the amount of like instrumentation you're using, the amount of effects, like, because like I suppose there's then the additional like production flares that come into the mix too. It's like, I could not imagine what it's like that to keep track of all that.
yeah. Like obviously you've like a core kind of sound that you do live,
Yeah.
but in the studio you're like, oh, well, let's push this, or like you muck about with like settings and stuff, and then you try and approximate as best as possible those sounds live,
Yeah.
and I mean for the most part I think it's very achievable, but like there is, it's not just a random thing, there's thought behind this. And
Yeah.
obviously when I write down with stuff, I'm like, I think it should do this, and you should play quiet here, or I should do this. And then we kind of work through things, and people bring their own kind of thing. But it's worse whenever I demo stuff and then don't, because I can't figure stuff out, man. I don't know what a fucking C sharp sounds like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so if I don't video myself playing the guitar parts and then demo something and go back to it 6 months, I'm like, what did I do there? And then you have to try and figure it all out. But yeah, it's the production side of it is becomes another part of everything. Then when it changes, like I said before, it changes, goes from these live songs to a studio song, and then now it's this kind of combination of both out the other end. And the studio kind of allows you to further explore and delve into those kinds of sounds. And sometimes there's stuff, like I bought this pedal, this cloudburst, this Strymon thing, and it's just amazing, amazing reverb. And like as soon as I got it, I wrote like four songs, and
Yeah.
that sound becomes the sound of a record, or
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of that, this guy, Hebe, he builds pedals. He's from Belfast, and I do demos for him and kind of stuff like that. And he lent me a load of fuzz pedals and built me my own custom fuzz. But he built this fuzz, the Bdrrm, and it's his version of the Big Muff. So I brought it
Okay.
and I was like, guys, like, you're gonna want to play this. And as soon as I was like, I'm just warning you, you'll want to buy one. And like three of us bought it because it's so playable, and it has like all the width and fuzz, but it's very clear. And so Dave, that's now Dave's main pedal, and that becomes like a really staple sound of stuff. And but obviously, like, I keep looking, people keep releasing new pedals, and you want to buy stuff, and things change, and then obviously because like Mo and Matt joined, and that kind of changes the sound a wee bit as well, and they have a different like swing to things like James and Brendy would have had, so it just kind of keeps moving and progressing and evolving, which is great. You don't want it to be the same all the time.
Yeah. Actually, and also that's the other thing too. Like, sorry, I'm trying to like pull myself away from the
You're
weeds here a
okay.
bit, but yeah, no, like obviously when you're in like a shoegaze band, like, because I've never been in one, I'm very like interested in kind of like a lot of elements of it, which I'm trying not to ask you because I think we go on a million tangents, but like I'm interested about like practicing in the shoegaze band. I'm interested in terms of like timing and making sure everything goes right. But one thing I'm kind of interested in is like do you find like how do you kind of like with the kind of like the kind of sound and this how do you find like distinguishing yourself in terms of like this is my instrumentation versus yours,
Mm.
or do you even consider that, or is it just more about making a cohesive whole? I don't know, just
Yeah.
I was wondering how you kind of approach that.
I think because the vast part of it is me working on stuff. When I have like this is going to be a rhythm part and a lead part, that's kind of like where I'll start, or I'll start on bass and be like, that's going to be this, and so we have. But we'll talk about it, and like even though I'll bring stuff, and we're gonna start working on new stuff that is really a lot more kind of. It's nearly like two leads, as opposed to like chords and a lead part, and it's gonna get really, really interesting then to make sure we're balancing, when we don't. So like, say Dave plays an orange and I play a Fender, so straight away you've got these two different sounds, and like Dave plays a Jazz Master and I play a Jaguar, so they sound different, and you're trying to like not like compete for the same space and the same frequencies, and like my fuzz sounds different to his fuzz, and I use a lot of different reverbs than he'll use, so we're not doubling down on stuff. We're
Yeah,
trying to bring different like color and different flavors to different things. So and even when we do start playing stuff, I'll be like, oh well, maybe that doesn't work, and what do you think, and maybe this should be this, or we'll kind of work through things. So it's just making sure that whatever we're doing has a purpose and isn't. And then you got to consider the vocals. Like after all that, then you got to
yeah,
be like, well, have we made space for the vocals? And you know, are are what we're doing, is it complementary? Is it going to take away from it? Do we need to play what we're playing there? Is there space? It's like this whole thing, and
yeah,
obviously because the vocals are a bigger part of what we do than maybe some other gazier kind of bands. We do try and make space for it, and because I love long songs and like not rushing things, but you also are like, well, do the vocals need to come in earlier? And it's like that's a
yeah,
songwriting thing, from for any band. But in terms of sounds, it's like if we're both playing chords at the same time, like how does that sound in terms of like our fuzzes and reverbs? Because it can be a mess, and
yeah.
do I need to play fuzz, or do I need to play chords? Should I just play one note and just, so it's just working through those things together. But like me and Dave are really lucky in that we don't play the same way, and we're complementary of each other's kind of styles, and no ego to it. We're not like, well, I wrote this great part,
Yeah,
and maybe I do, and I just don't see that. But it's very easy to work together, or even as
yeah,
a band, we're like Mo and Matt like kind of had to come in and learn stuff, so and fair play to them for doing it. But now we're kind of starting to work through things. We're like, let's try this and let's try this and let's try this. And having that ability to like not be butthurt if your like one idea doesn't make it on, like
yeah.
it doesn't matter, it's in service of the song, as cliched as that sounds,
No, absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of yeah, that's I'm just like thinking of like as you're saying all that, I'm just getting like anxiety in my head, like picturing that kind of build up block, kind of like approach. I'm like, oh my god, like from a production standpoint, from a songwriting standpoint, having to disassemble and reassemble things, just like it's
And
driving me
that's
insane.
that's where the magic can happen though, man.
Yeah,
There's a song that when people pre-order the record, when they buy the vinyl, they get downloaded this song Gliss, right? And it's not on the album. It's not going to be on Spotify. You only get it if you buy the record. And that was the song that was written in between like Softer and the Transmit a Little Heaven EP. And I brought it in, had it, and like lyrics and melodies and everything, and was like, this is great. I love this. Like, we should play this. And we did, and we played it for ages, man. And then we're on tour, and like someone was like, I don't really like that song. And I was like, well, why? Like, we play it all the time. Like, why not? And then Rebecca was like, yeah, I don't really like singing it. It's too low. And I was just like, mind blowing. But then we spent like pretty much an hour and a half in practice one day. Like, we're going to cut the choruses. We're going to do the choruses for 3. You know, we're going to cut this part and like half this and try singing it higher. And maybe you should come in earlier. And, you know, do we need this? And I mean, that was a difficult practice. But in the end, we just kind of ended up right back where we started from. Like, Rebecca sings it a bit different now. So it's a bit more accommodating to her, kind of like where she naturally sits in terms of range. But structurally, it was just like, that's what it needs to be, you know. And it's like I was saying, it's one of those things where I still listen to it now. I'm like, is that right? You know, like, should the choruses have been half? But it's meant to be what it's meant to be, and it's meant to be a, like, I wouldn't say it's like super long, but it takes you there kind of thing, you know. So, but that's one of the really good examples of that in this record. And there was on 10, there's a part towards the end. It's like this big open gazy part. It starts to really kind of open up. And Dave was like, it's a bit long there. And I was just like, dude, man, it's not long at all. And but like we looked at it and we played it through a bunch of different ways and like chopped different parts up. And now we did cut it down than what I originally had. And it does make it more succinct. And it means that when that part comes in, it's like, oh, that part, there's more punch to it now, you know. So it is important to be able to, like, and sometimes I'm a wee bit too close to things, I guess, you know. I'm just like, yeah, I think this is class, but being able to self-edit or having the band edit things, you know. And like there's like stuff on the album, like James like, we should put a stop here and it should be here, and it's like, it just melted me, 'cause it's like it's in a weird place and I have to come in weird and I don't really understand it, but like working through it took time, and but like working through it, and it makes, you know, those wee details, you know, they make a difference, you know. And
it's real kill your darlings kind of.
Yeah. And like on the Disappear as well, Brandy was like, oh, I've got this idea, and it was in the studio, like went right as we were recording the song, so I've never heard it up to this point, right? And he's like, this idea, and I was like, okay, well, what is it, you know, what's the deal? And he was like, oh, I'm gonna down tune the low B for the last chorus. And I was like, what? And like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, man, like, and like, I was like, we're not in sleep. Like, this is, no, like, it's in standard tuning. And he was like, oh, and then he done it, man. And it's, when you hear it, it just, the last, like, it's like the last run through of the chorus as it kicks in, and there's a noticeable shift to it, and it just adds all this weight to the bottom of it. And I mean, like, we can't do it live, but for the record, it was like, it was so cool, you know. And just having that and being like, people being able to bring things, you know, is cool. And that's what I'm talking about, like having that like actual band, you know. Because I mean, if I had done this record myself, it would have sounded completely different, you know. Completely different. And even Johnny as well, like Johnny will make production
decisions, like,
or like he'll offer it up as options, you know, or advice, or say, you know, like, try this. And because I mean, like, we've been on tour together and we've recorded a bunch, and like I've tour managed his band, and you know, there's that like rapport, and you know, we're open to those kinds of things. And certainly on the first EP, like, he brought a lot to it, because it was just me and him, you know. And he plays bass in a couple of those songs, and then this time he's just like on his hands and knees, like mucking about with pedals while I'm playing, and we're looking for something. And like, it's cool. It's cool having that, you know, outside influence. You know, if there's someone you can trust and respect, and you know, believe in what their opinion is, it's nice to have. Sometimes, producers offer unwarranted things, which but we're lucky that we're selective with who we work with, you know, and Johnny's been the guy for it so far. So yeah, it's been good.
Perfect, man. I think by the third album, you're gonna have a stack of jazz masters all in different tuning, like Sonic
Awesome.
Youth,
I
and you're gonna incorporate that, the Sonic Youth tuning.
I sent about it was like 6 months ago. I sent over two songs, and the tuning is the title of the song. Like this is number one. This is number two. And Dave was just like, "Man, I don't have another guitar."
Yeah,
I was like, "But this sounds so good." And I've tried to figure out a way to play it in standard or something else, and it's just like I can't even remember. It's a Loveless tuning. I can't
yeah,
remember what it is, but yeah, it was just like this is what it's going to be. But I'm trying because like you can't. It's so. I mean, at this level, you don't have like a boat of guitars, you know.
yeah.
Um,
And the
so
other
we're
thing I'm thinking
trying.
of is that you can't like it kill the pace if like you try to banter in
Yeah,
between. So while someone tunes, you just can't do
yeah.
it in the genre.
No, we have one song in drop D, signaling off the first EP. And even then, like, we tried to do the thing where, you have pedals playing and all and
Yeah.
like to keep it kind of going, but it's like it's such a pain in the ass to have and then you're the
Yeah.
goalie's like, are you ready? Are you ready? And all that. But like, yeah. I mean, who knows, man, that this stuff that's coming that we're starting right now is different again to the
Yeah.
like anything else that's came before. And we've made a conscious decision to go a certain direction now. But yeah, and I think it'll all make sense in terms of like the EP, the album, and whatever else is to come. But and there's stuff on the album that is indicative of what's kind of coming as well. So because you don't just want to do like the same thing, over and over and over.
Absolutely. Perfect. Final thing I'll ask. So yeah, you were mentioning the kind of like shows you have coming up. You're planning to do in the UK in November. Obviously, you have the two shows in Dublin, Belfast in April. Between then, you're hoping to get some shows. Yeah, I was just wondering, like, what would be some kind of like, I don't know, some dream opportunities in terms of the live shows that you'd like to do? Like, I assume like maybe do Europe or something, but yeah,
Yeah, we've been offered European shows, and it's just the money.
yeah, yeah,
Like, and I mean, if I had the resource, the money, I could go do all these things. In terms of like, I mean, I would love to play with like Slow Crush, and I kind of we're not friends, but we talk, and we kind of send stuff back and forth, and I always send them stuff, and whenever they come here, like we chat, and they're super nice, and there were such I mean, I've made no opportunity or attempt to hide it from them and being like,
yeah.
and it's like, I fucking love you. And, but they're so nice, and they helped. They actually were having like difficulty live with vocals, and I was just like, what do you do and how do you go about it? They're really helpful, and they're like, try this, this, and this. And they were just like, we're still trying to figure it out ourselves, So it's like, that's, I mean, those people say never meet your fucking heroes. You don't say they're
Yeah.
heroes, but it's like, having that, they're just like, yeah, try this. And I've interviewed them for like, through Old Crows and stuff, but I'd love to play with them. I'd love to play with nothing. Like obviously, like, I mean, we tried to get the Slow Dive support when they came, and that didn't happen. And, but we've been lucky enough to play with like Bleach Fab and Bdrrm. Like Bdrrm are stunning, stunning
They're
band.
saying, yeah, yeah. I haven't
Um,
seen them live. I'd love to though.
Man, they were phenomenal. It was just it's that kind of thing. They were at the end of like a 2 month tour or something, like the last
Yeah.
night in Belfast. You could tell they were just like, we want to watch you. We're gonna go sleep if we wake up in time. And they came and watched a few songs, and
What venue was it?
Limelight 2, which
Oh, so the little basement. Yeah, yeah.
so it's like I saw Just Mustard in there on the Heart Under tour, and so they were headlining, and it was like it holds like 400 people, and it's not big there in front of the stage. Is like kind of cramped, but it was so fucking loud. It was
Yeah.
amazing, and like there's all the lights down, that you can barely see them, and the smoke uploads, and just blue lighting, obviously because of the record, and um, it was amazing. It was so like visceral and in your face. And then I saw they were supporting Wolf Alice, and I went to see them in Dublin and Belfast like 2 nights in a row. And because it was where we see them in Dublin, the Olympia, and like it was cool, but it's a wee bit bigger. And then the Telegraph office up here, and it's like fucking huge, man.
Yeah.
And it was so different because it's just a bigger thing, and it doesn't feel as like wall and noisy. Then like there's maybe a bit more clarity, but it didn't have that same kind of like punch to it.
Yeah.
But it's cool, and I chatted to them a wee bit after that show and was just like, I play in a shoegaze band. And they were like, we fair. But because I mean, they're just like when you're on tour, like you don't give a shit. You're just like play
Yeah.
the show. I'm hungry. I'm tired. You know. But
Yeah.
they were nice and like chatted a wee bit. But yeah, I mean, like I would love to play with Soul Crush. And I mean, we've been lucky enough that we've done like a lot of big places in Ireland so far. You know, like we've done like the Bottom Factory in Kilkenny. We've done the Set Theatre. It was unreal. And
Yeah.
so we're hoping this year now to get to like Galway, Cork, Limerick, that kind of thing, and then we'll be down in Dublin. I'm doing Gaze Fest again this year, and I just need to
Okay.
announce it in details. And um, it's going to be Grand Social. We've done it before, and done Workman's, and oh yes, and up here obviously like we get to do the 14 plus shows here, and they're great because it's like kids just are starved for music these days, man. Like
Yeah,
you
man.
know
Yeah.
they don't have enough. Like I've noticed Dublin started doing it a wee bit, like 14 plus shows, but like up here that it doesn't really happen, you know. And like I kind of started doing it because I was like, I had this, and
Yeah.
now I'm doing this, you know. And like I try and get like the last one I done there was New Pagans, and they're on like Big Scary Monsters and Marshall, and I put Chatham on, and they're on Alco Pop, and they're on Marshall, and you know, trying to be like, you can do this, you know. This
Yeah.
is like you're not going to make a lot of money, but like it's a viable option to like to go after, you know. And like
Yeah.
I mean, I just get to play with some of my like I fucking love New Pagans, so I just and I was my birthday as well, so I was like, I'll just put on New Pagans, play a show, and we for birthday, and that's amazing, you know. And but I just try and like show like you know. You don't have to wait for someone to tap you on the shoulder to go do the thing that you love. You know, you can put on your own show, you can be in a band and it doesn't matter. Like you can go record for nothing these days, you know, like I mean do it at home or like even like go to a studio. Studios do not cost thousands anymore. And
Yeah.
it just I think it's important to show people like, you know, it's available and it's an option, you know,
Yeah.
especially the younger people, because otherwise they're like if they're not seeing what your country or town or city is producing, then what are they gonna think? You know, like why there's no scene here, or I have to wait until I'm 18 before I can go do something. You know, I was like, I went to see At the Drive-In whenever I was 15, man. I borrowed my dad's leather jacket and just went to the Empire and was just like, you know, like, and got in. But it's like, and there was a venue, I know, kind of trying to wrap up, but like,
No, no, no.
Belfast called Warzone. And it was like
Yeah.
a punk
Amazon
collective.
Collective,
And
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And great people. And I mean, I was very young then. I played my first show there. My mum and dad put on my first gig, and there was all these like bands from all over the world. Man played like bands from Dublin came up, played this band Puget Sound. I'll never forget them. They were like, you know, crust punks, like dreadlocks, and like you know, like a dog on a rope and everything. And they came up and they were just like, I had like some sample playing. It was like the passion for destruction's also a creative
Yeah.
passion, and like launched into it. Like, I mean, I'm 39 now. That was like 16 years ago. I still remember that shit. And like they
Yeah.
were my age, like they were just a wee bit older. And like I was like, fuck, like
Yeah.
you can do
Yeah.
this. And like people I met through there, I'm still friends with. And I was like, but there's nothing like that now. And you couldn't get away with doing Warzone the way they did now because, you know, every laws and licensing and everything. But
Sure.
having that safe space where OES Center is like, you know, kids can go there. It's 14 plus. There's a bar, so if you want to drink, and like because it's not like a bar, like parents like feel comfortable, you know. And like I done a bunch of all ages shows last year, and there was like some that all ages is different to 14 plus, you know. But I done all ages stuff last year, and there's a kid there, and they were like 7. They were like, "This is my first gig." And I was like, I did that, like you know,
Yeah.
I made that happen, and that's cool, you know. And like they'll never remember me, like I mean, or like people don't know, but it's like I allowed that. You know, there was an opportunity there, and then that made that happen. You know, I mean, that kid could go on to be the next. I don't know. Hopefully not you too, but like you know what I mean. Like, but so yeah, I just think it's important to do those, and then Gaze Fest is a way like because there's a lot of gazy stuff here at the minute, and gaze kind of curious stuff, and like you know like us like Winona Bleach, like they're doing great now as well, and Blue Slate from Dublin, Fulvetta. I love Fulvetta, man. Like Adore, they're on Blowtorch. They kind of have that gazy kind of thing going on. Yeah, there's a bunch of bands. We're playing with Affection to Rent in Dublin, and then Gush. They're from here. They're kind of gazy, kind of grungy stuff, and So there's like this whole thing happening, man, and it's just trying to like pull it all together to be
Yeah.
like, look, like just shine a light on it and be like, all this stuff's happening, it's happening everywhere. So just like here, look at it and take it
It's,
all
it's
in. And
it's that real kind of DIY thing you were talking about, right?
yeah,
Because you were mentioning
yeah.
kind
And
of
I
like
just think,
Discord and like Fugazi and Minor Threat
yeah,
and all. It's like, yeah, it's that kind of like attitude, I think, where like their whole thing was like do all age shows. Dude, I've thought about this before. Like, in the UK, they have like all their venues are like under 16s with adults. Like
yep,
I think if we could adapt that over here, it would make sense because I'm thinking of it from our perspective. It'd be like, okay, you want like kids to be able to go to shows, to see bands, to get inspired, but from the people who see music as just in the industry and just making money, for them it kind of makes sense because you know, you have to sell an extra ticket then for an adult, so you're getting more
yeah,
money, and B, it limits your liability as a venue to say, well, okay, you were meant to be with an adult if you're under 16, so you're
yeah,
getting more asses and seats and you're
yeah,
selling more tickets. So to me it makes sense. It's something that kind of like satisfies both the people who only view music as an industry and people who
yeah.
actually care about music as an art and actually inspiring people, if
The
we could adapt that
difficulty,
here.
I work in licensing like as a job, and so the difficulty is like there's licensing laws. And
Yeah.
also then when you put on an all ages show or a 14 plus show, you have to buy out the bar, so they
Yeah.
get become much more expensive. So there's much more risk involved, which is why I'm not doing them like week in, week out, because
Sure. Yeah.
I would just lose money that I don't have. So I try and like keep it focused, and put on the kind of bigger shows or like every couple of months kind of thing. But I think it's important that there's an opportunity for people to go see, young people to go see those bands, because otherwise, you want to perpetuate the scene and, let them experience all that. Because I mean, yourself growing up, all those formative experiences and sweaty rooms, like watching a band play in a corner, and like fall off a stage and somebody break their guitar. And, I was like, oh my God, like this is, because I like, it goes all into like sub pop and
Yeah.
Nirvana and all that, and that all those like Charles Peterson's photos like encapsulated that kind of scene, all that like big trails and waviness and like sweaty stuff, and then like you go and it sometimes it happens. Like I mean, a lot of times people stand shows like this, but
Yeah.
every now and again. But so yeah, I agree. Like I think people should be doing it more, but there is risk just
There is. Yeah.
financially involved with it. Otherwise, honestly, I would be every Friday. I'd have those shows on, man, because people want to go to them as well. But
Yeah.
you can burn people out on them too. Um, but yeah, hopefully we'll get to do an all ages show in Dublin. People keep messaging me about it. Why aren't you doing this? I'm like, well, until like
There's no
2 months
venues for
ago, I
it.
think what do you call them? Soundhouse have started doing it.
Oh,
Column
really? Okay.
has started doing them. Because I kind of know him. I was chatting to him about doing stuff up here, and
Yeah.
whatever, they must have found a way to do it down there. So if we can get down there and do it and figure that out, that would be cool.
So,
Because there
sorry,
was
who was it? I missed it. You said sorry. I think I talked over you. Was it
uh
Santos?
Soundhouse, yeah,
Yeah.
Column. He does. It's Fluttertone. He does
Okay.
Column Slattery. It's him and this other guy. I can't remember his name off, but like in there, they do those like Soundhouse Tuesdays and stuff, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they're doing all ages stuff. So it seems like they're trying to make like something happen. And obviously the sound, we haven't done Soundhouse yet, but I've sent bands down there to play, and like it's a proper venue. It's not
Yeah.
just like there's a table in the corner with like one for the PA. So I don't do those shows anymore, but like the sometimes you have to, and like
Yeah.
just to kind of get the show. But yeah, so it seems like they're trying to make a difference.
Yeah, Santa's really nice. I've been there a bunch of times. It's actually upstairs in the Wiley Fox, which is a pub.
Yeah,
So it's like it's interesting because you can get people like having a bop upstairs, but like I always wonder about the patrons downstairs. I was
yeah.
like, I guess there's no like nothing crumbling down from the
Yeah,
roof.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's sick, man. I'd love to see like I understand the actual logistics of it, but like
yeah,
it would be kind of sick, and it's something that's always kind of been at the forefront. Yeah, I remember like like the Academy was another venue here that always did like 14 plus shows sometimes, but
yeah,
they've like pretty much stopped doing them as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
So I don't know. It's here it's like the Olympia and I think the National Stadium are the two venues where they that regularly do all ages
yeah,
shows.
yeah,
I think that's about it here. And again,
yeah.
like not just anybody can play those venues. It's like you have to be at a
No,
certain stature. You
yeah,
have to be able to sell a bunch of tickets. So Yeah, I don't know what's like in Belfast if there's more opportunities, but you're mentioning the Oh Yeah, and I think that's like such a
That
great venue.
that
It's also like I'd love to go there sometime. I just haven't been to Belfast in ages. I think the last time I was there was like 2010. So
Jesus. Yeah, you should come up, man. Like, do I mean if you can't make the Dublin show, like come up and the Belt. I mean, that's Deer's Head actually, but the Oh Yeah is the only place that does the all ages stuff that
yeah,
allows it to kind of happen. And I've been working with them now for a couple of years, so we have a great relationship. And they know, like, if I do something, it's going to be well promoted and they're going to be safe. And like, parents have came to stuff, and like, it's not like they've left their kids there because they know it's okay. You know, they know like there's security, and you know they're not going to let people be dicks and stuff. You know, and
sure.
even the older crowd that do come, it's not like a bar, so they're there to see music, so they're not just like there to get smashed and you know like be assholes kind of thing. So
Hmm.
it's a good venue for that kind of thing. You know,
Yeah. And it
yeah,
also has a great little museum things. I've seen images
yeah,
of it.
yeah, yeah.
If I'm ever up there, it's definitely a place I want to check out. I was meant to go to Belfast last year, but the band cancelled. It was at the Limelight, actually, Limelight 2,
Oh, yeah.
and the band cancelled. So I was like, oh, like, so
Who was that?
no use for a name. They're
Oh
Swedish,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
they were meant to
yeah.
play there, and I was meant to pop up, but it got cancelled. So
Agent.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like we'll be doing a bunch, and like we'll have Gaze Fest. I'll send you details of
yeah,
Gaze Fest, and if you're about even Dublin for the release show,
yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure. Yeah, yeah.
Actually, I'm going to, I think it's next week or something. I'm actually going to, is it Pink Slips they're playing? I think, you sent me on. So I think I'll be going,
It's
what's that?
it's this week because
Is it this week?
I booked those shows. um, it's the
Thursday,
Thursday.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, Thursday they're playing.
He's crept up on me. Yeah. I'll be popping to that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
but
I booked those shows for them, and I do PR for them. Like
yeah.
they're
Yeah. I've
good
interviewed for
guys.
the site. Yeah. So I'll be
Yeah.
popping along to that. So
So,
I'm supporting
oh
your
yeah,
live shows.
yeah.
I'll definitely be
Awesome.
on my, for the launch show of Virgins
Cool.
down here.
Cool.
Thanks very much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
No, this has been really great, man. I'm actually annoyed I have to go do real work now because I was like I could just keep talking and like
I'm the same, man. I'm like,
yeah I could honestly spend hours talking about the record and stuff, and it I just like thanks for asking such great questions as well, because like sometimes you go on these things and you know it's like you know just boring and like you're just saying the same shit, but like it's cool you've obviously listened to the record and been into it, and like so it was really nice, man. It's been great to finally meet you, and
same, man.
hopefully actually get to meet you in person at some stage.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. Thanks very much, man. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, cool. You too, man.
Best luck to you.
All right, take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to that episode of PostBurnout.com interviews. If you liked it, please subscribe and stick around because we have plenty more like this coming soon.